1515, a Spanish army settled near Tenochtitlan that sat in Lake Texcoco with canals that allowed their canoes to navigate the city. The two things I noticed about Tenochtitlan was their markets, which were a large size and had a variety of goods, which enabled trade, and their temples, which were a site of ritual with human sacrifices in order to please the Aztec gods. The decline of Teotihuacan opened an era of militarization lasting until the Spanish came in the 16th century. The Aztecs were the most prominent during this era. The Toltec and Mexica shared religious and cultural traditions of Teotihuacan and fought among themselves. The Toltecs migrated into Mexico in the 8th century and used the river Tula to irrigate crops. They maintained an army and built a compact regional empire. Tula was the Toltec capital and was the center of weaving, pottery, and work. Conflict with ethnic groups led to civil strife, and nomads settled there in the 16th century. Civil conflict and nomadic incursions destroyed the Toltec state. The Mexica built the Aztec Empire in the 15th century, and they were known to cause trouble by kidnapping women and seizing lands, which upset their neighbors who eventually forced them to move. And in 1345, the Mexica settled on the marsh of Lake Texcoco, and they developed the Chinampa system, which had small plots of land that were located on the lake, and they grew crops year-round. The Aztec Empire, in the 15th century, they defeated their neighbors and demanded tribute. They then launched a campaign of imperial expansion under Itzcoatl and Montezuma. And in the mid-15th century, the Aztec formed a triple alliance with Texcoco and Tlacopan that guided the Aztec Empire. The goal of this alliance was to extract tribute from subjects. Merchants were given tribute items by ruling elites in order to go and trade them in distant lands. And the Mexica left local government and tribute collection to the conquered peoples. They also didn't maintain a standing army, but had a military reputation that kept subjects in line. The social part of the Aztec Empire had most rewards going to the ruling elites, and all males were looked at as potential warriors, and commoners were able to improve their status by distinguishing themselves on the battlefield. Accomplished warriors received land grants and tribute, and most successful formed a council who selected ruler, discussed public issues, and filled government positions. The Mexica women were subjected by the law and under strict authority of their father or husband, and society pushed them to motherhood and homemaking. Priests received education and presided over religious ceremonies. Cultivators lived in hamlets cultivating chinampas that were allocated to their families by calpulli, and slaves worked as domestic servants. Skilled artisans and long-distance merchants enjoyed prestige, which warriors thought of as greedy and took wealth from those without protection. The Mexica had two principal gods, which were Tezcatlipoca, who could take lives, and Quetzalcoatl, who was in charge of arts and agriculture. And they believed that the god would set the world in motion by individual sacrifice. Huitzilopochtli was the god of war that the Mexica believed favored them due to their military successes. And priests of his cult demanded sacrificial victims to keep the god appeased. So peoples and societies of the north built small-scale societies because they didn't have resources for large ones. The Pueblo and Navajo tapped rivers to irrigate maize, and their hot and dry environment brought famine. And they also constructed stone and adobe buildings. Iroquois peoples had 5 nations, and their women ran the villages, and men were in charge of other affairs. Mounds and cahokia. Mounds were used as stages for ceremonies or rituals, and Cahokia is the largest surviving mound that's located in Illinois. And trade linked the separated regions of North America and it was used with their elaborate networks of rivers.